I'm Josiah Blackburn,
And where are you from?
Ocean Springs, Mississippi,
And how old are you?
15.
Okay, Josiah. So you're here at Camp Agape, and this is your first time to be a helper, right?
Yes, sir.
And when did you hear about Camp Agape?
My mom has a friend that actually lives in Texas, and she heard about it from one of her friends that goes to a retreat. My mom now goes to the retreat also.
Okay, and you went through yourself as a camper.
Yes, sir.
How old were you at that time?
I was 13.
And why did you come here as a camper?
To hopefully get some grasp of relief on why my brother died and why God would let that happen, because he was only really young, and that doesn't make sense. And there's plenty of other people that have committed much greater stuff, much greater sins than him.
How old was your brother?
My brother was 2.5. Yes, sir, 2.5.
2.5 when he died?
Yes, sir.
What did he die from?
Neuroblastoma. It's a cancer.
And how old were you?
I was, I want to say maybe 11.
When he died?
Yes, sir.
Were y'all close?
Yes, sir.
Was he cool?
Yes, sir. Loved the smile. And he loved cars.
Cars?
Cars and the
Little
Gator
cars?
foot-
Like Matchbox?
No, the movie Cars.
Oh, Cars, the movie.
Yes, sir.
That's a good movie, by the way.
That is. Very good.
What do you remember most about your brother?
I remember him laying in the bed with the IV hooked up to him in his, in our house. He was on bed. They sent him home because he was so far from them being able to help him. And I remember him sitting up and just looking at my dad and sort of smiling. Barely smiled, but it was a smile. Still, that was probably my best memory. I mean, I can still picture it in my head. That or the first time I walked into the hospital and he was laying there in the bed.
So that's the memory that you have of your brother.
But yes, sir, I have other memories. I also have him.
But that's the first one that you said, which means that that's probably the biggest memory that you have of him, right?
Yes, sir.
When you heard the news that your brother had died, where were you?
I was at my house. We went to the beach earlier that day with our best friend. We were really tight. There's like, every child we have, there's like one 6 months younger or older than us in their family, so we were really tight. Our moms and dads were really tight. My best friend is in that family, and we went to the beach with him, and he was sick, and we thought it was just because he'd been out in the sun because he was so young, because he was, he was just 1. So we came home, and my mom called up my grandma. She lived about 5 minutes away, and she's like, "Hey, I need you to get over here with the kids. Can you please come quickly?" I had no explanation. I just need you to get over here. And of course, my grandma, being my grandma, said yes, because she loves to spend time with us. She got over there, and there was a lady that was studied. She went to a semester of nursing school, and so my mom brought her to him, and she studied all the organic stuff. And she's like, "What do I do?" And he's like, "Well, you better take him to the emergency room because he hadn't ate or drank for a day." I mean, he had drunk a little bit, but not enough to keep him hydrated well enough. So the first thing they did is they hooked him up and they got him a scan, and they said, "Well, your son has cancer, neuroblastoma," and they're like, "What's that?" Nobody knew what that was, and so my mom called my grandma up, and she was like, "Hey, me and Silas are getting life flighted to Gainesville Florida State University, not Florida State, Florida Gators football team. The college that they're based out of has a hospital there, and that's what they specialize in, kids in cancer research. So they went there, and that's when we figured out how bad it was. And when I figured out, I had no idea. I remember a couple of days later hearing some people talk over it. My mom's best friend, my grandma, and a couple of ladies at the church, they were talking about it, and that's when it really hit me what was happening. So I learned it when I was at the house, but when it really hit me was and what the stages were, because someone compared it to me as a hurricane. Being in Florida, I've been hit with probably 15, 20 hurricanes.
But when they told you that your brother died, who told you that?
My dad didn't really tell us. I could sense something was wrong because he was in the house. I could sense something was wrong, and that was the only thing that happened, because he was past his time when the doctor said he should live. He had doubled his time when the doctor said he should live, actually. And when I woke up, I could just feel it in the house, you know. And so my dad came in, he was like, "Hey guys, I want you to get dressed." He said, "Don't come out of your room though," because my mom was in tears really bad. And then when they walked us in there, and right before we walked in, he said, "Your brother's passed." And so that's when I realized.
At that very moment, when your dad told you that, how did you feel?
I have really no recollection of that. They were in my mom and dad's room, and they brought him out into he was in a little tiny bed, roll bed, the hospital bed, and they brought him out so the people from the grave could come to bury him, came and got him, and that's really all I remember. I remember everybody from the church, it was on a Sunday morning, coming over to our house and praying and singing. I can't remember what song it was, but singing and praying for our family, and then that's all I remember. I remember looking up, and I remember seeing my self-defense teacher standing back there, and that's the only picture I get in my mind of it. You know, I've got that. Then we went to church. We were still having it. We had just got done with our camp meeting, and so we were still at the tent, so we had it out there. And I remember walking in, I remember seeing all my friends standing there, and it was like everything was just like all my nerves. I had no feelings for anything. I had no idea. I knew it was going on, but I didn't understand why, really.
When you were 11, you came to Camp Agape for the first time?
I was 13.
13.
My brother died when I was 11.
So 2 years went by before you came here.
Yes, sir.
And when you heard about this place, what did you think about it?
Well, I really didn't know much because my mom didn't explain it to me a lot. She just kind of said, I heard my mom and dad talking about it. She's like, well, there's this camp you're going to. Because I was 13, I could understand. She said, there's this camp, and everybody there has lost somebody. Maybe not all the workers. Definitely every kid there, and most of the buddies have lost somebody in their family. And so, I mean, didn't really know what to expect. It was my first camp coming to it. This was actually my first camp ever.
Were you scared?
Nervous a little bit, but.
So when you walked in for the first day, do you remember what you felt like, or seeing everybody with, that you're assigned a buddy? Would you remember that part?
Yes, sir. I remember my buddy's name. I remember meeting everybody in my cabin. I walked in. They didn't have anybody else outside. They didn't have anybody else walking outside, but they had outside welcoming us in. But we came in the back doors, and then we came in, and I can't remember who met us, but it was this friendly lady, and she's like, "Well, Mom, you'll sign in here if you're signing in." She said, "Kids," she said, "well, there's something you can eat," and so literally, it was 5, me, and 4 of my younger brothers walked, and people just started walking up. "Hey, you're so and so, right?" And then there was one person out of my family that got mixed up with someone else. But yeah, I remember it pretty well.
So, when you look back at the first time that you came here, are you glad you came?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Because it helped me understand, and it was just good for me to get away, and it was having me think about it, but there was enough fun that I didn't dwell over it constantly.
What did you think about being with a bunch of other kids who had gone through the same thing?
It definitely helped me because it was my first time. I was the only person in our church that lost somebody, a little brother, that I knew of. And so when my mom said, "Hey, our friend has lost somebody," I mean, it helped me. And she had 1 or 2 friends on Facebook, but I had no idea who they are. So I was like, "Well, that's your friend's mom." That really didn't count for me. And I was kind of upset because, I mean, I thought, why me? I mean, we're a family of 10, and I was kind of aggravated why God would let that happen, make it happen to us, a good Christian family. I mean, and so
Were you mad at God?
I wasn't mad at God because I knew the Bible says God does everything together is good, and I can see it has helped me be a better Christian. I mean, it still saddens me, but I'm happy for Silas because he's in heaven instead of here. Because right now we live in a camper, and actually someone would have to sleep on the floor. I mean, now not, because my sister moved out, there's more beds. But when we first moved in, we would have to. And it's kind of nice to think that he's got his own mansion in heaven. He doesn't have to be cramped like us.
So you're cramped now?
Lord, a little bit.
So you went through Camp Agape. You left. And then you decided to be a helper.
Yes, sir.
Why did you decide to come back?
Well, I mean, I had no idea what went on, but I understood. I mean, I walked into my cabins every nap time, and there was tons of stuff on the bed. I would be going one place, then come back 45 minutes later, and it looked totally like a new place, except for the floor and the ceiling, except for the stuff that we dropped on the ceiling, on the floor, and that stuff would be mopped up.
So you got all kind of stuff on the bed. What was that all about?
Well, they gave us toys, really. I mean,
At camp? I've never heard of that.
yes, sir.
Oh, I have covered. I've been here before.
Well, we got race cars, we got bags, we got some candy,
Wow.
and then we got a couple other toys. Remember, because there was 2 kids that didn't show up, and so people would put stuff on their beds. So we would all the campers would sort of argue over who got what off of the beds. And decided if somebody wanted something, the other 2 didn't, they got it.
So how many times have you been back here since you went through as a camper?
Just one. This is my first.
So this is your first time?
Yes, sir. As a helper.
How's it been so far?
Fun.
Do you feel like you're getting anything out of it as if you went through it yourself?
I mean, some stuff, yes, sir. Not quite as much, but yes, sir, definitely.
Do you want to be a buddy?
Maybe one day, because I think it helped having my buddy, knowing that he lost somebody. So whenever he said, "Yeah, I know how it feels, buddy, it's okay to cry," it was different than having one of my friends or somebody from the church say, "Yeah, it's okay to cry. We all know how you feel," because they never lost a little brother. So because he had lost a son, it was definitely nice. So so if it helped me that much, I'm thinking me losing my brother will help a kid that's coming here, because they have no idea why they're whoever died that was related to them.
So, what do you think about the idea of somebody coming here who's just lost a little brother or a little sister, or you think they should come?
Yes, sir. I mean,
What?
now, I mean, there's some people I would suggest not come, but definitely if they're having lots of grief problems, then yes.
Why would you suggest somebody not come?
Because if they lost their brother when the boy that's coming here is 6 months old, he really has no recollection of it, and so he's here and he's hearing all these people say, I lost somebody, and the person that died when he was 6 years old kind of just starts having these questions. Why am I here? I'm different than all these other kids. That's why I think. I mean,
I got you. Okay, that makes sense. So you plan on coming back next year?
if we can get the money to drive out here again. Yes,
And
sir.
where'd you drive from?
Mississippi, the other side of Mississippi.
Oh, yeah. How long did it take to get here?
Well, we stopped, so it took 2 days, but altogether I think it would have been like a 12-hour drive, but we made it a 17-hour drive so my mom could stop and see her friends.
It's a long drive, isn't it?
Especially when you're sitting in the front seat and the movie's going on in the back seat. That's the worst.
Anything you want to say to the YouTube or the website people that are watching this right now?
No, sir. I think the buddies, if they come here as a buddy or even a teenage helper, they would get help, even if they're too old to come as a camper. So, I mean, if you've lost somebody, you can still come. It's not like you aren't going to get help. Because everybody here, for the most part, has lost somebody, even if it's like a best friend.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much.